Hi everyone. So in this video, we are going to create a backup NAS. This particular device will be used as a remote backup for my primary NAS. The reason why I'm building this is just in case my primary NAS, which is a 6 TB storage capacity, goes down, or if in case I have some network connectivity or maybe a hard drive issue on my primary system, I should be able to restore my data, at least the critical ones, from a remote location. Or in case I'm not able to connect to my primary NAS, I should have a remote backup which I can connect and get my data from. So in the first part, let's start with how I'm planning to build this NAS drive. So the first thing which I am planning to have is the hardware. This particular build is going to be on a mini PC, and I have a 2 TB NVMe SSD which I am going to use. For the software, initially I thought to use NixOS, but I ditched it in favor of OpenMedia Vault. Reason being that OpenMedia Vault is a very lightweight NAS operating system. And then I'm going to use Tailscale so that I can create a private link between my primary and the secondary NAS, because this is going to be on a remote location. And there is all sort of problem with being on the internet, like NAT traversal, having a static IP address and those things. So that's why I'm going to use Tailscale. And the SyncThing is going to be the software which I'm going to use for syncing the data from the primary to the secondary device. So with that being said, let's move on to the actual build. Okay, so for this build, I'm going to use the cheapest mini PC which I have found on the internet. This is the one from a Skullcent. This has nothing in terms of hardware, very modest. It has a dual core processor, 4 GB of RAM, and the reason why I chose it is because it has dual NVMe. So one I will be using for operating system, and another one which I'm going to use for storage. It has a 2.5 gigabit LAN port, which will be very handy in case of NAS for the data transfer, because it's faster than a normal gigabit uh, Ethernet port. And then it also has power on auto start. So in case of a failure, it is going to automatically start the computer as soon as the power is restored. And this will be used on a remote location. So it's a very helpful feature. Okay, so for the software, what I have done is I have used a virtual machine where I'm going to install the OpenMedia Vault, uh, do all the basic configurations and everything on there, install all the software, and then create a script out of it, so that I will be able to restore the NAS in case there is a failure, or if I need to reinstall the NAS altogether. I want to have a entire rebuild of that operating system without having any manual intervention. So I do not want to forget exactly what steps I did, how I achieved that particular configuration, and how to replicate it. The reason why I'm preferring a virtual machine is in case something goes wrong, I can always start from scratch. And so I am creating a virtual machine on which I'm going to install the OpenMedia Vault. Then I will be installing the softwares like Tailscale and SyncThing. I'm going to do all the configurations, and everything I'm going to document in a SH file. And then that particular SH file I will use to create the actual install on the device. So then I'm going to actually install the operating system on the device and going to recreate the entire thing from there. So in future, if I have to redo everything, I do not have to do it manually. I can just run that script and everything will be restored. Okay, so for this section of the video, it is very simple. What I have done is I have downloaded the OVM image ISO from the website, and then I'm installing it on the virtual machine. The installation process is similar to any Linux operating system, where you select the region, you select the uh, time zone, and basic configurations like the hard drive formatting and everything. So I'm going to speed it up so that it completes quickly, and then I'm going to set the host name and the domain name and whatever the information is needed, root passwords and everything. And once that is done, then I'm going to actually go into the system, log in into it, and then do the configuration. Okay, so let's skip ahead. Okay, so now that the installation is almost done, I'm going to create a snapshot from the fresh copy. I'm going to reboot and then create a snapshot from the fresh copy so that I can always restore it to that particular point. And then I will start installing the applications on top of it. You can also create a clone of the operating system just in case for the virtual machine, just in case you mess something up and you want to have a second backup copy of the virtual machine. So here I can also create a clone on the virtual box itself, and then I will create a snapshot as well. Okay, so creating a snapshot is very simple. You just have to go into the snapshot tab, name of the snapshot, maybe whatever is the current state of the application, and then you click OK, and then virtual machine is going to create a snapshot at the current state. So let's move on. So once the snapshot is created, you can start that instance of the virtual machine. And then once it starts, we are going to log in into it. I am going to use the like normal CMD of the Windows and not log in into the system bash cell. The reason why I'm using the command line is so that I can do SSH into the application, and that way it will be easier to do the copy paste from the host operating system to the guest operating system. So let me start the virtual machine, and then I'm going to do a SSH into the virtual machine. Okay, so once I log in into the virtual machine using the SSH command, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a script file. That particular script file will have all the details of how I want to configure the system, what things has to be there, what applications I need to install, what is the username and everything. Those things I'm going to create in the SH file. Then I'm going to make it executable and then install the operating system applications so, on top of the operating system. So yeah, let's get started. So once I log in into the system, I use the nano editor to edit a script. This is the part one of the script. The reason being that there has to be certain steps which has to be done after the system restarts with the part one part of the applications installed. So this particular script I'm going to use to install the first part of the application. So quickly explaining, I'm going to create a username variable. This particular variable, I'm going to redact it out once I check in into the GitHub so that you guys can, if you want to, you can rename it to your own username and your own email ID as well. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new user into the system using the add user command. And then I'm going to modify that user and add it into the sudo group. After that, I'm going to install curl that will be needed to install Tailscale going forward. So, after installing the curl, and I'm going to install the SyncThing application. So the SyncThing installation is very simple. You just need to add the certificate into the apt, and then you just do the apt update and apt install SyncThing on top of it. Once that is done, uh, you can also enable the SyncThing service. So for that, we will use the command sudo systemctl enable SyncThing and at the rate username because I only want to enable the SyncThing with the newly created user. So uh, that I'm going to do. And then I'm also going to start the service itself so that once the service starts, it creates the configurations and everything which is needed for the SyncThing to work properly in the first part. In the second part, we are going to use that configuration and modify it using the script. So once everything is set up, I'm going to save this script and then I am going to make it executable. And finally, I'm going to execute this script to set up the system. So as you can see, this is going to do the installation of the application and do the SyncThing installation and everything, create the user and things like that. I'm going to fast forward this so that it installs, and then we are going to continue on part 2 of this install. So yeah, the installation is done. And now we are going to reboot the system. And then in this, we are going to do the second part of the installation. Okay, so for the second part, we are again going to log in into the system using SSH. And then we are going to create another file using nano. This is the second part. So we are going to name it as setup underscore part 2 sh. Few of the variables which we created in the first part, we will still need. So we are going to keep those as it is, the username and the email ID. Then what we are going to do is use a command SyncThing generate. What this does is this generates the configurations and everything. And then we are going to use another command to basically modify the address to which the SyncThing binds to. So by default, the SyncThing binds to the local host, and we are going to update it to bind to 0.0.0.0 so that anything like anything or any connection which comes from outside, SyncThing is going to respond to it. So then we also add the script to install the Tailscale on top of it. Tailscale installation script is very simple. You just need to run a sh file which you get from tailscale.com/install.sh, and then we are going to actually save this file, change it again to be executable, and then finally we are going to run it. Similar to the part 1. Let's do it. Again, fast forward to the part where the installation is already done. Okay, so once everything is installed, you will get a output saying that tailscale up is the command which you need to use. What this command will do is create a URL. You can copy this URL and go to the browser, and then you need to add this particular device into your tailscale network. The detail on the Tailscale, maybe we can do a video on that, how it works, what it does and everything. But yes, so once you open the URL, you add this device to the Tailscale network within your account, you are good. So whenever this device comes up, gets online, the Tailscale will start and it will automatically connect to your Tailscale network. So after a restart, the next thing which I need to do is I need to go to the IP address at which my device is connected on the local network. So for example, mine is connected to 192.168.0.103, and I'm going to log in with the Open Media Vault username and password, which happens to be admin and Open Media Vault. And then once I log in into it, I will see this dashboard with a few things like how much RAM it is using, how much CPU it is using, and you can see it's very minimal. So it's only using a very less amount of RAM and CPU. Uh, so only 500 megabytes of RAM, and CPU is close to 10%. Then I'm going to do the configuration for my hard drive. So as you can see, I have a 2 TB hard drive, which I'm going to configure. I'm going to set it up so that it mounts properly on the correct location. Then I'm going to share the drive through Samba share or however you want to share it. And then once everything is done in the Open Media Vault, I will save the changes with the pending changes, pending configuration changes option. So once that is done, everything is set up from the Open Media Vault perspective. So my NAS is good and ready to be used. But since this is my backup NAS, what I need to do is I need to create a link between my primary and the secondary device. So here I'm going to log in into my SyncThing, which is the same IP address but different port number 8384. And then I'm going to set up a username and password here. And yeah, you can see the error which is on the screen. And then once the username and password is set up, I'm going to use the SyncThing, the original NAS. I'm going to log in into that. And then what I'm going to do is basically connect those two devices together so that they can talk to each other. And the way we do it in the SyncThing is by using the device ID. So from the first device, as you can see, I have other Mac device connected and syncing. So from the first device, you get the device ID, and then you go to the second device, and then you enter the same device ID there so that they are able to identify each other. And once those devices are able to identify each other, they will get connected. And any folder that you have shared in the primary device is going to appear in the secondary device as well. And then in the background, they are going to do all sorts of figuring out how they are connected, going through the internet or going through LAN or however they want to do it. And then once everything is done, your two devices should be able to sync with each other. The data transfer will start. And then at that point, basically your work is done, so to say. So now you have a backup NAS which does the data application from your primary NAS, and you can basically take this and put it at a remote location, maybe at your other home or maybe at your friend's home or where we want to keep it. And you can be sure that anything that is changed on your primary is going to be replicated over to the secondary device and vice versa. So you will have the entire data being backed up at a remote location. SyncThing also allows you to configure what folders you want to sync and what not. So those things you can also do, uh, but yes, you're good to go. If you like this video, please do not forget to hit subscribe and give a thumbs up so that I can be motivated to create similar videos in future. And thank you for watching.